Hello Airsoft friends, and welcome to this video, which I'm excited about today because I feel that this could potentially put to rest a lot of talkings about that are going on the internet right now. You may remember that not too long ago I did a video where I compared the SSG 96 to the cheapest other L96 sniper rifle that I could find on the internet. It was a huge difference between the two. One of them was essentially just a VSR upper in an L96 lower. It was weird, it didn't perform good, it was just bad. From that video though, the comments were all saying that I picked the wrong cheap sniper rifle, that wasn't the right one, and I should have done the Well MB01 sniper rifle and compared it to that because other people have done it and it's the exact same sniper rifle. Well, thank you very much for those comments, and I have indeed listened to you because I have gone out and I have picked up the Well MB01 Airsoft gun for us to look at and compare to the SSG 96 and see if it truly and genuinely is just this sniper rifle with a couple of upgrade parts. Even without taking this box apart and opening it up, I feel like the answer is going to be no. But you know what? It's what you guys are asking for, and I would love to put this myth to bed if possible. So, without further ado, let's just crack it out and see what we get in the box. We have got 2 pages of instructions of how to use the Airsoft Sniper, a speed loader with Allen keys for building the rifle and adjusting hop, 3 magazines, which are actually quite weighty because they've got a metal outer construction build to it, which is quite nice, a sling, which looks exactly the same as the one that came with the Airsoft gun manufacturer sniper rifle and doesn't look too good, a small bag of BBs, and of course the sniper rifle itself in its 2 separate parts, which is quite handy for us because it allows us to look at each part individually before putting it together. So let's just get straight into it. I'm going to look at the stock first because that's probably, hopefully, going to be a place where we can easily see some differences and similarities between the two. And I happen to have my SSG 96 stock here already in, you know, on its own without the upper receiver for us to take a closer look. Looking at the 2 stocks side by side, I will admit that they look very, very similar to the point where I feel quite confident that the upper receivers will actually fit in and work across both rifles. So that's something that we're definitely going to check out. One slight difference which I can see so far is at the top mounting point. So on the SSG 96, there's an extra screw hole here which you can use to screw in the top end of the rifts, giving it more support and stability because there's an extra touching point on the stock, if that makes sense. And in the cheapo version here, there isn't. It is just like there's a hole there, but there's no way for a screw to come through that hole. So sadly, we don't have another point of contact on the stock that the SSG 96 has. These mounting points here are also very different. This one on the cheapo Well does move around and wobbles quite a bit, whereas on the SSG 96, it's completely stock and stable. Also, coming down and looking at the hardware that's used to hold both sides of the stock together, they do look a little bit similar, but the mounting materials do look higher quality on the SSG 96. If I hold it this way, I'm talking about the metal bits there and the metal bits there. Like, the screws are quite similar, like the Allen bolts do look similar. It does look like the stuff on the SSG 96 is more premium. It looks like the ones on the cheapo L96 here do have or have been painted in the past. So I'm not too sure what material they will be, but yeah, the ones holding the SSG 96 build together do look better. Generally as well, looking at the finishes, I know this has been wrapped, but I can still see the material through. The material used on the SSG 96 does look more like heavy duty wearing and also just a higher quality in general. Like, this one is more reminiscent of the plastic of the Airsoft gun manufacturer version rifle that we also had, whereas the SSG 96 seems to be more of a polymer type plastic base, so I feel like it would be harder wearing. And when you hold each one like in a sighted position or just like casually as well, feels more like a lighter plastic frame that they've just chucked a big old block of metal into the back of the stock to give it that weight and make it feel a little bit more premium. Like, the plastic, the finish doesn't feel that nice. It does look thin in places, and yeah, it just doesn't seem like a quality type plastic. Whereas the SSG 96 feels sturdier, it feels more harder wear, it just feels more quality, to be honest with you. Another area we can look at is the butt plate of the stock itself. So on the Novritsch one, you can see we got a really nice rubberized grip texture on there, and you've also got these kind of like holy bits, so it does mold a little bit to your shoulder when you push it in. These do bend in there and make it really comfortable when you're holding it, along with really gripping in to your shoulder and keeping it in the same place. With the Well version, however, it is again similar to the Airsoft Guns manufacturer buttstock plate. It's the exact same textured style as the Airsoft Guns manufacturer one. However, it is a different material, so it is a little bit grippier than the super cheapo Airsoft sniper rifle that we looked at. It does grip a little bit more, nowhere near the same level of grip as the SSG 96. So you see there, I'm doing the exact same thing, and the rifle is just sliding out of my shoulder. Butt plate there is different. The material of the stock is different. You've got an extra mounting point on the front there, so that's different. This here is like loose, whereas on the SSG 96, it's solid, so that's different. The mounting screws on there are different, and the material, both to finish it on the outside, this doesn't have any finish on there. The finish on the outside of the SSG 96 feels really nice, feels like quality, and also the material is different too. This feels more like a plastic, whereas the SSG 96 feels like more like a polymer. So pretty much everything really, apart from the actual layout and setting of the SSG 96 stock between the rifles, is completely different. There's not one part which is the same, except for maybe like the design, the layout of the RIF itself. That needs to be the same because they're both L96 sniper rifles, and if it wasn't the same, then it wouldn't be an L96 sniper rifle. So yeah. Right, that is, I'm officially saying, the stock out of the way. Let's grab the upper receivers and see what they look like. So here is the upper receiver from the Well L96, and here is the upper receiver from my SSG 96. Straight away, there are some quite big differences here, which you can see. First of all, the Picatinny rail. On the cheapo version of the sniper rifle, it's actually two different pieces. The Picatinny rail is screwed onto the upper receiver, whereas on the Novritsch SSG 96, it's all one piece of metal, which has been machined. Next up is the outer barrels. You can see there on this, the cheapo one, it's just like a tube of metal, which is pretty thin throughout from looking at it. Whereas on the SSG 96, you can see it's a nicely fluted, machined piece of metal too. So again, more material in there, higher quality production. Now I'm going to do an air seal test just to see how that is. I know with the SSG 96, there's O-rings in the top end of it. So if I cock it like so, put my finger over the end, pull the trigger, and then wait a few seconds, we should still hear a, there we go. So really nice air seal on there, able to hold all of that cylinder of air inside the barrel until we take our finger off. Now, I do not know if there's an O-ring in the top end nib of this rifle, so I'm just going to quickly take the end cap off and see, because that's going to be something which is going to both help with like the air seal when the air comes out of the inner barrel, and also it's going to help center the inner barrel too. And sadly, there is no O-ring. It's just a machined piece of metal, and if I give the inner barrel a wobble, there is a fair amount of movement in there. So this is going to be holding it in place, but it's not going to be help sealing it. But we will do 2 air seal tests on it anyway, just to see the big difference if there is one. So we'll cock, finger over the end of the inner barrel, as you can see, and 1, 2, 3. Nothing at all. No sound at all. Putting the end cap back on and doing it again isn't really going to lend anything to it, but we'll do it anyway, just for the sake of argument. Okay, and cock. And fire. Nothing at all. There's no real great air seal on this one, I'd imagine. A lot of air is going to be coming out from, you know, this point here. That's not to say it's going to hinder performance a huge amount at all, but yeah, it's not going to make it any better than the SSG 96 though, sadly. So that is a point away from the upper receiver. Also, the way that this rifle works, you've got the hop adjustment, which is done here on the underside. So when the whole rifle is built together, you actually have to put your Allen key in this little gap here between the magazine release catch and the stock in order to adjust your hop. Now, in the SSG 96, it's very different. On the SSG 96, you actually have your hop adjustment on the top of the barrel, which is right there. Also, on the outer barrel of the SSG 96, you can see we've got this cutout here. That's where you put the extra screw in on the front of the stock in order to have that third attachment point. You don't have that on the cheap version of this sniper rifle. No, it's just not there. Also, it allows you to look and see how thick the metal is. On here, it looks to be about 1.5 mm, maybe, and the cheapo version is nowhere near that. So, material, different. Thickness of that, different. higher quality end bit because this one doesn't have any O-rings, this one does have O-rings. Where you adjust the hop is much better on here because trying to put an Allen key through that bottom bit on there is going to be a right pain in the butt. And the Picatinny rail is a separate piece. So far, everything is looking quite different. Let's have a little look more towards where the cylinder goes. And straight away, I found another big difference. The trigger unit is plastic. So trigger unit here on the cheapo version, you can see there, plastic. It's already scratched up, even though I've not put it into the rifle yet. It's already been scratched up. Whereas here on the SSG 96, you can see it's a full metal piece. So trigger unit, plastic on the cheapy one, full metal on the Novritsch one. I'm going to quickly do an FPS test now and yeah, see what we're coming in at. Out of the box with no hop on, this is chronoing at about 415 FPS. So that's not too bad. While we're here, let's now see if I can put the cheapo upper into the SSG 96 stock. Ooh, look at that. That actually sits in right. Let's try the screws. Let's see if I can put the screws in. The answer is yes. The screws do screw in and it fits perfectly. Let's see what the mags are like. Can a mag go into there? Will it fit? Will it work? And yeah, that fits in there. And that's good actually because the paperwork says that these mags are 35 round magazines. And if that's the case, then that's better than the Novritsch ones because what are they? I think they're like 20 round magazines. So I might decide to actually run these magazines with the rifle. That is cool and good to know. Lovely. So where do we sit? What is the overall takeaway between these two rifles? Well, the Novritsch SSG 96 cost me about 350 euros, which I think equates to about 320 pounds. And with that, you get the sniper rifle and you get one magazine. With the Well L96 or the Well MB01 as it's named, it cost me about 85 pounds and it came with 3 magazines, a sling, a little bag of BBs, and a magazine loader. And also those magazines held, what, about 50% plus more BBs than the stock SSG 96 magazine. So there are improvements and there are benefits between the SSG 96 and the MB01. The weight of the magazines is something which I both like and don't like. I like it because it feels sturdy in your hand and it feels like, you know, you've actually got something there to take a hold of. But the thing I don't like about it, again, is the weight of it because I want my sniper rifle to be maneuverable and easy to get around the place. So on one side, I like it. On the other side, I don't. But to me, the big winner here is the fact that it has 35 BBs in there versus the 21 that the standard Novritsch SSG 96 magazine has. So on that side, the Well MB01 gets a point. Well, technically they get 3 points because 1 for the mags being better and an extra 2 points because you get 3 mags with the gun in total. But magazines aside, because they're just accessories that come with the RIF, what is, you know, the main differences between the rifles? And is the SSG 96 purely just a Well MB01 with a few upgrades? Well, let's go back through and list out every single thing that's different between the two rifles. Starting with the stocks. The material of the stock is different. The finish on the external of the plastic of the stock is different. The mounting hardware is different. The sling mounts on the front are different because they move on the cheapo one and they don't on the SSG 96. The butt plate material is different. The grippiness of it is different. The design of that is different. And also the cheek rest is super hollow. And when you knock on it, it actually feels really flimsy. So I'm not too sure how much I trust that. And also it has 1 mounting point less on the front of the MB01 versus the SSG 96. So when you look at the differences between the stocks, it's pretty much everything. Now, looking at the difference between the upper receivers and we'll include the cylinder as well. The material of the outer barrel is different. It's also a lot thinner than that of the SSG 96. The end cap doesn't have an O-ring in there, which doesn't allow for a good air seal and also centering the barrel. When doing the air seal check, it didn't do it at all. The hop adjustment is found on the bottom of the barrel versus the SSG 96, which is found on the top. The Picatinny rail is a different piece altogether, which is bolted onto the upper receiver. The trigger unit is made out of plastic. The cylinder has a plastic spring guide in there, whereas the SSG 96 has a metal machined one. FPS is going to be a negative on there because on the website it's advertised as 458 and it came in at about 415. Also, Also, on this version, for some reason, there is no like indicator to let you know the rifle has been cocked, whereas you have that on the SSG96. This one, however, does have the empty magazine notification thing, so that is the same. I think it's very clear and easy to see that these are very different sniper rifles. The materials, if they're not different, then the quality and the amount of the material between the rifles is different. The design of it is different. How you interact with it, like where the hop is different. The building quality material and different sections, such as the trigger guard, is different. And the list goes on and on, as you've seen. Like, there is much more things different between these rifles than there are similar things with these rifles. And this is one of the things which makes me really confused about people saying that, oh, the SSG96 is just an upgraded version of that rifle. Well, isn't every, like, more premium rifle than the previous one just an upgraded version of the other one, you know? I think with this, a lot of people have just been calling it out, or somebody has said, oh, look, it's probably just an upgraded version of this cheapo sniper rifle. And from looking this and doing this teardown, I can quite confidently say that that is not the case. I will for the meantime, however, more than likely, it's probably going to end up as a giveaway item on my Patreon. Speaking of which, thank you very much to all of my patrons. I love you all so much. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. I appreciate you just... oh, you won't even understand how much I appreciate you. It's such a big deal to me. Thank you all for watching, for subscribing to the channel, for commenting, for sharing your thoughts. I genuinely love it. Like, if you've got any other ideas or anything else that you'd like me to look at in the channel and make a video on, please do let me know in the comments below. I try to reply to every single person, and I'm making my way through my historical comments too. So people who have sent me messages like, you know, a year ago, I will eventually get through to replying to them too, because it's important for me to, you know, to have that dialogue with you guys. So yeah, keep letting me know what you want to see, and I'll keep seeing what I can do. Once again, thank you very much. Remember to call your hits, and I'll see you in the next one.